to speak about how music could develop for the rural area student. Mr. Isidore will give a speech maybe 30 minutes, and we have 30 minutes for the question. Thank you.
Thank you. I realize I'm in front of the screen, so I'll move to the side so I'm not blocking anyone's view. Just a second. So first of all, thank you for inviting us. And Mr. Michai apologizes for not being able to come today. As Mr. Kui mentioned, he came with a high fever yesterday and has been admitted to the hospital. He's doing fine. He's sending emails and stuff, but his doctor won't let him leave the hospital until the fever has gone down. And so he's asked me to come in his place. So Mr. Misha is the chairman of our association. I'm the assistant to the chairman for community development projects. And I'm going to show you the PowerPoint slide he had prepared for today. And then we can have questions to discuss a bit more. So, very brief background on Mr. Michai for those who may not be familiar with him. Around 40 years ago, he established what has now become Thailand's largest NGO, originally working in family planning, then in HIV/AIDS and then rural development, and now mostly in education. And so we founded the Bamboo School 5 years ago. So it's the Bamboo School. We're trying to re-engineer rural education in Thailand. And we asked the question, is there any room for music in this re-engineering and changing how education is done in Thailand? And we believe that this is education to foster future social entrepreneurs and community development leaders. This is the objective. We're trying to be very focused and to do. And to help rectify the poor state of rural Thai education. So before I go into the school, a very brief background on what Thai education is like in rural areas. It focuses on rote memorization and emphasizes literacy and numerical skills, basically learning everything by heart. With very weak emphasis on new ideas and creativity skills, which are extremely important as a human being, and especially, you can understand, in music. Creativity is one of the core components. And just as an example, this is the national average of what they call the ONET exam. It's the end of high school exam before entering university. And you can see for the past few years, in not one of the core major subjects has the national average been above 50%. And this is how Thailand is achieving in education right now. And at the same time, this is a negative consequence on the education in the villages that is often being overlooked. Say you take a typical village. Because education can be quite low for the youth going to school, many of them may leave school before finishing their education and become youth workers, come to the cities to work in factories and taxi drivers, etc. And if they want to go back to their village, they cannot. There are no jobs. But however, they send their babies home for the grandparents to take care of. At the same time, those that do continue their education and go to university, same thing, they cannot come back because now you're a graduate. There is no jobs for you in the village. So we're basically sucking life out of the village because of how education and rural development is done in Thailand. And as a result, farmers are getting older. Nobody's coming to take over. And this is typical two age groups that you would see in any village in Thailand. You have the elderly and the grandchildren. So our Thai education system is not preparing students for the world of tomorrow. Therefore, we believe that we need to change in 3 ways. First, we would need to change what we teach for it to become things that are actually relevant and useful to the students in their lives. How we teach, find a way for education not to be dull and boring and to be more attractive to everyone. And especially we need to change the role of the school. Rather than just being a school for students, we believe it needs to be a lifelong learning center in many different areas, but not just for the students, but also for their parents, their families, and the entire community. Oh yes, sorry. If I speak too fast, let me know. I have a bad habit. And so the school has to become a lifelong learning center, teaching you skills that are useful to you your entire life, but not just for the student, but for everyone in the whole community. And the school must also become a hub for community development. So it must play a much greater role than it is. Right now, a school is a legal entity. It has land which is underutilized. It has buildings which are only used 200 days out of the year. The rest of the time, the school doors are locked and nobody can come in. How can we make better use of this? It has the most educated people in the village, the teachers, that are not being used. They're only being used from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the school is like a diamond that is not being used. So we believe, to put it in simple terms, we have to advance from this to this. It is a telephone all the same. Nobody uses the one on the left. Nobody will try to get something like this. But everybody wants and uses what is on the right. But they're both telephones. Same thing, the school must go from an old table school to a smart school, like we have smartphones today. And this is being pioneered by a handful of education institutions. There are some schools doing it in Thailand, including the Bamboo School. So the Bamboo School is working towards reshaping rural communities, rather than just teaching students. We want to craft, again repeating what I mentioned earlier, future social entrepreneurs and rural development leaders. This is where the school is located. So we're about 4.5 hours from Bangkok, northeast. Buriram province is on the border to Cambodia. This is what the school looks like from a bird's eye view. At the bottom, below the screen, is a river, the Laman River. And all these trees here, these are all lime trees. I'll explain to you why lime trees later. The school is called the Bamboo School. Oh yes, we're fostering a new generation of Thai citizens. This is a picture you would never see in any typical school. Students raising their hands to ask questions. Students are just taught to repeat and not taught to question or to think for themselves. This is what we're trying to produce. We want students who are stimulated to think outside the box. So for example, this is in the school. Why only paint paper in walls? Why can't you paint trees? Trees would like to look nice. So the students come and paint trees around. We paint coconuts. It's much more attractive. Why not? Again, the reason is people coming into the school see this and start asking themselves questions. This is the objective. Make people think about things they're not used to thinking. Art class. Painting on top of coconut trees. We call it the Coconut Art Gallery. We grow vegetables in cans. On the right, we can't see it very well. This is our beer garden. All the beer cans are together. We grow vegetables, American standard vegetables, because this is the most popular brand of toilets in Thailand. Buildings the school is called the Bamboo School. So buildings are made out of bamboo. And this is a typical classroom in the school. And this is inside the classroom. So there's nothing particularly fancy. However, here we have the bamboo geodesic dome, which is built at the school. It is the world's largest geodesic dome made of bamboo. This is what it looks like with the roof on. It's used for many, many different activities. It can house over 600 people for events. We do sports, we do trainings. The school serves as a hub for the whole community, so many activities are done here. An example of in what ways we're different. Our students have a very important role in the school. We're a secondary school, so we teach from grade 7 to grade 12. Incoming grade 7 students come and apply, and they are interviewed by the older students. And they're the ones doing the selection of the incoming students. At the same time, they also interview the parents. Democratic education. 2 of the students are elected to sit on the school board. They have the same level of authority as the school director or any other board member of the school. Again, grade 7 to 12. The students are involved in the purchasing, audit, and budget committees. They have to go regularly to the markets to survey the prices of different things before budgets are authorized to make sure that money is being used properly. And the school is for them. It's important for them to understand this, and this is giving them skills that will be useful to them later. This is very recently. In preparation for next school year that opens in May, students came to Bangkok, went to different shops to order student uniforms to see which were the differences in prices and quality of the cloth, etc. At the bottom, purchasing of new furniture. So they went to the IKEA shop in Bang Na East up here to select furniture for the incoming students. Students also participate in teacher selection and teacher evaluation. Any teacher who wants to come and teach at the school is first interviewed by the students. The reason for this is, say, if you want to buy new shoes, you can choose whichever shoes you want. But shoes are not very important for you. They make you feel comfortable, and that's about it. However, a teacher is someone who's going to shape you as a human being. Why are we denying the students the choice and the type of teachers that they want? They should know better than us what type of teacher would be good for them. So they are involved in the selection and also in the evaluation. Just recently, the students had an evaluation of a deputy director for education in the school who'd been there 2.5 months. So her evaluation was 3 months, and they decided to let her go. They said that she was very effective in doing the work, but she had very, very bad human skills. And by interviewing different staff in the school, they felt that many staff felt very uncomfortable working with her. And she was calling meetings in the middle of the night and other things. And students said that this is not what we want people to see our school as. So they decided to give her a failing evaluation. Fostering new attitudes. Every day, students, one at a time, sit in a wheelchair for half a day to understand what life is like living in a wheelchair. This is not something you can learn from a book. It's something that you need to experience yourself. So all of them, one by one, go through this to understand what it's like to go to the bathroom, to have to go up the stairs when there is no ramp, etc., etc. And this is, we don't want our students to look down on people with handicaps or to feel pity for them. You have to look up to them. These are people that are much stronger than you. They're able to do their daily lives without any problem, although they have to face all these different difficulties. You do not have to. And so this has led to a very interesting development, which I'll show a bit later on. Also understanding hunger. The students do not have dinner on Mondays, just to understand what it is to feel hungry. In Thailand, food is available everywhere. It's very difficult to skip a meal because food is cheap and is readily available everywhere. And so students do not have dinner on Mondays. In the beginning it was difficult for them, then they got used to it. And when we asked them, what do you think about it? They said, well, I finally understand how painful it is to be hungry. I didn't know before because I always had food. And as a result, when I grow up, I will never allow anyone in my village to be hungry. I'll make sure that all the younger brothers and sisters of all the families have food. So this is teaching them through direct experience. Also discipline. We are a boarding school, I forgot to mention. And so they're only allowed to use telephones 1 hour per week. And the rest of the time they have to write letters. 1 letter to a person famous in the world, 1 letter to a family member, and 1 letter to a friend. It's because the style of language you would use is different in each case. We have activities that this week came up on our own called Question Time, which all the students must think of questions and ask the teacher. And the teacher will answer to the best of his or her ability. And all the other students, if they have any additional information, they add to it. A team of 4 students write down all the questions and all the answers, and then they go on the internet to compare the answers. The idea is to understand that you should not believe people just because they're adults or teachers, etc. That you always have to be critical in the information you're given and to check facts. And the other one is answer time, similar to the American game Jeopardy. Teacher gives an answer and students must come up with as many questions as they can that lead to that answer. Say for example, if the teacher says Bangkok, and one of the questions could be what is the capital of Thailand? Another question is what city has the longest name in the world? Because the full name of Bangkok is very long, etc., etc. Or if the answer is 6, the question could be what is 3 plus 3? What is 7 minus 1? And all of a sudden students realize that there are many, many different questions that lead to the same answer. Is to promote kind of, I would call it, the backward process of thinking. And not everything that is taught in school is necessarily what you want to learn. So students have independent choice learning periods. If, say, this group of students want to learn the mating habits of crickets, then they start a project and they study on their own. And so all the students decide what they want to study in this period. As an example, this group of students wanted to understand how an electric oven works, so they asked to raise budget to find a second-hand oven, put it apart, and put it back together to understand, and they made a report. And learning also happens a lot outside of the classroom. We do many different things. In the school, the students are asked to produce the electricity themselves. So they buy used cooking oil, they recycle into biodiesel, put it into an electric generator, and then this is used for air conditioning in the classroom. We say, we will provide you with air conditioning, but you need to find the electricity yourself. And in this whole process, different subjects are integrated. There's chemistry, there's science, etc. Recently we had a new solar powered project. The school is going to be entirely solar powered. And so the students are learning how to put everything together, and they'll be doing it themselves. They've been producing their own LED light bulbs at the bottom. And it's learning through direct experience and things that are useful to you. So the school has school fees, but they're not paid in money. They're paid in community service and tree planting. And parents need to do 400 hours of community service a year and plant 400 trees per year. This is the scholarship, the tuition fee for their students. And so the idea our objective is not to make money. Our objective is to improve the quality of Thai society as a whole. So the payment is whatever goes towards that. Community service doesn't mean in the school. It could be in their own village or anywhere. It could be helping the elderly go to the health center. It could be helping younger children with their homework. It could be cleaning up the temple, anything. And at the same time, students as well must do the other half. So students and parents each pay half of their fees, but through community service and tree planting. So examples of activities that they come up with for community service. On the weekends, the students go out into the villages, call meetings with younger children, and then teach them whatever skills that they have. They help them with their homework. They do a lot in environment as well, to try to promote environmental protection amongst younger children in the villages. Whenever there are big activities in the schools and the temples, they come and help set it up or prepare clean up the temple beforehand. We have a good deeds pool. So it's a half Olympic size swimming pool. The money was given to us by one of the founders of Hasbro, the toy company in the US. And so the idea is before you can use the pool, everybody has a good deeds book, and you have to have done good deeds before being allowed to use the pool. So you know that you're only swimming with good people. And the reason why we say saving lives, we did a survey in the villages around, and we found out that 80%, 80, of children in the area do not know how to swim. And there are some deaths whenever there are floods every year. And so we started this project in which we invite other schools to send their students in, and then we provide them with swimming lessons. And after 10 lessons of 2 hours per lesson, then they're able to learn how to swim correctly. And since they're at our school, at the same time we teach them other things, like agriculture, or arts, or language, etc. We also work a lot on identifying corruption and solutions. So the students go out, request meetings with the village headman, ask questions, they ask with villagers, and then they ask them, oh, someone said that you were only elected because you bought votes. Why is that? Why do you think, why is that good, why is that bad? Because these are young children asking you. It's interesting, and then they come up with reports and they propose solutions. And they said that as a first step to get rid of corruption in Thailand, we must start with the schools. Schools must become corruption-free. Many of the schools' teachers get kickbacks when they purchase things, and budgets are not very clear, etc. If the teachers, the ones teaching the younger students, are not corrupt-free, how can we expect the country to improve? So that's their idea. We had a visit recently from the Ombudsman, who came and met with the students and explained to the students what the Ombudsman does. And they agreed to start a project, the Student Ombudsman Project, in which students would, once in a while, going to the villages, try to identify, to see if there has been any misuse of government funds. And then they would submit a report to the Ombudsman, who would then send a team to investigate. And so we want to expand this from just our school to go through the National Student Council across the whole country, to give this as a role of the Student Council in all the schools. There is a system put in place in which all schools have a Student Council, but they don't have any role. So one of the roles would be to be involved in the Student Ombudsman Project. So to start young, to understand the problems of corruption. So we have garbage separation bins, and we have one for corrupt people. The idea is you shouldn't wait for National Anti-Corruption Day once a year. Every day when you walk by the garbage is to remind you that corruption is something you should throw away. It's not something you should just, it's not something acceptable. So it's small reminders, small things. Students are involved in tackling inequalities, so they go into the villages. This was funded by the Australian Embassy, to identify villagers who either elderly living without family, who do not own any land or handicapped, etc., and help them start their own businesses to generate income. So the students will work in teams of 2 and buddy up with them to help them start their own businesses. And as an example, this is for grandparents and grandchildren. Right now, Thailand has 1.5 million families in which grandparents live with the grandchildren and the children do not live with their parents at all. This is having huge effects on the behavior of the child and how they do in school and in life further on. So we want to create a strong bond between the grandparents and the grandchildren, in which they help do a business together. So that when the children grow up, first of all, they have a business ready at home, so they don't need to migrate away and live with grandparents on their own. And at the same time, there's a strong sense of bond in the family. And another example, on the left, this child is mentally and physically handicapped, so the students help them start a mushroom business. On the right is a man living in a wheelchair who's been handicapped since he was 6. Same thing, helping them find business opportunities while staying at home. The Thai government has put in place laws that every company must hire a number of people with handicaps. This is their way of solving the issue, but most of the people with disabilities come from the rural areas. And coming to Bangkok is not practical because the roads are bad, there are no lifts in the sky trains, etc. And it's taking them away from their families. And so why don't we help them generate income while they're in the village? And so we be teaching of agriculture and business skills is an important objective of the school. So the reason for this is, out of all the students that have finished primary, secondary, or tertiary level educations, only 30% will be able to find employers. And 70% will have to be self-employed. But right now, none of them are being prepared for self-employment. You spend your time at school getting into a university to get a degree which is used for you to find employment. But only 30% will be able to find employment, and the others would then eventually have to start their own business. So that's why we focus a lot on business skills as well. And so we came up with a concept called the School Poverty Eradication